Leonardo DiCaprio was grilled by the FBI in one of the biggest upcoming cases most people have never heard of. And interestingly, there's a transcript of it all, talking about some of the most powerful people in Hollywood, including Jamie Foxx, Usher, Praz, so many other people. DiCaprio also appeared before a grand jury and is listed as a witness, so expect him to appear in a trial that starts now. Now, we're going to go over the Leonardo DiCaprio FBI interview, and this, it barely scratches the surface in a case involving political corruption. Over $4.5 billion, that's right, billion dollars in laundered funds. Hundreds of millions of dollars spent on a super yacht, artwork, real estate, and even links $9 million back to the producers of Wolf of Wall Street. That's right. Now, this is a worldwide case that we're just touching a little bit of, too. And when I say worldwide, we're talking about kicking off in Malaysia, involving the United States, China, spies, Australia, Singapore, UK, UAE, and so much more. Yeah, you and I, we're going to talk about it today. Crazy times, huh? Crazy times indeed. All right, so hey there to all you fine folks on this fine day, by the way. I hope you are doing excellently. So recently, a bombshell dropped showcasing how Leonardo DiCaprio, he had been grilled by the FBI. We have 16 pages of reports on this in one of the biggest cases to come up. In fact, that case, it drops now on 03/27/2023. Now, to understand this, you need to understand the case itself, 1MDB, which according to the Department of Justice is the biggest kleptocracy case that has ever existed. Kleptocracy, by the way, is where government, they take money for personal gain from the people that they're governing. Now, 1MDB was about buying power and influence. In Hollywood, well, that's the way in. Ultimately, that's how people like Praz from the Fugees, they ended up indicted. This is big time too. I mean, we are talking about, if convicted, spending decades in prison, and that's how other names they get brought up, including Leonardo DiCaprio. Now, as part of this case, we are just now seeing some of the bombshell documents involving people like Leonardo DiCaprio. And remember, this had so much power behind it. You don't just have the FBI sitting down with Leonardo DiCaprio. You also have special agents from the IRS, assistant United States attorney from the Central District of California, plus trial attorneys from the Money Laundering and Asset Recovery section of the Department of Justice. I mean, again, these are players here because it's not just money, it is power that is being corrupted as well. Now, the FBI states that the reason they're sitting down with Leonardo DiCaprio is because of his production company started in around 2000. DiCaprio started the company so he could find material he was interested in. Studios, which have the right to first refusal on the projects, primarily fund the company, but if a studio passes, DiCaprio seeks outside investors and sometimes gets involved in the search for investor capital. Now, as far as this process is concerned, you have quite a few people that are involved with Leonardo DiCaprio. You have his agent, for example. You have Redacted here, who is the head of DiCaprio's development company, the person who puts together projects and more, like the Wolf of Wall Street. And this is how you end up meeting someone we're going to call Lowe, or Mr. Lowe. Now, Lowe is an important player in this, according to the Department of Justice. Why? Because Lowe, along with Praz from the Fugees, they were both indicted for undisclosed lobbying campaigns, trying to shut down any investigation into this, also with witness tampering, conspiring to make false statements, money laundering, and so much more. Now, according to the FBI, DiCaprio first learns about Lowe through an acquaintance that he has known for more than 20 years. You'll notice they redact their name and their nickname as well. They just called him a nightclub industry insider, an actor who has made a few low-budget films. This person tells DiCaprio that Lowe was interested in getting into the movie industry and was looking into financing a few films, and that he has a lot of money. Now, DiCaprio might have first met Lowe at New York nightclub. Redacted invited DiCaprio to fly to Las Vegas to go to one of Lowe's parties. Now, this is where other Hollywood names come into play too. Names like Usher, names like Jamie Foxx. Why? Because Lowe is throwing around money. Quote, at first, DiCaprio did not know much about Lowe, except he was from Malaysia. He had lots of money, and he wanted to get into the movie industry. DiCaprio was most intrigued by Lowe's parties, which involved performances by famous musicians, including Usher and Jamie Foxx. Now, from there, you have all of the introductions and parties, with DiCaprio saying, yeah, I remember partying with Lowe. I partied with him on yachts, plural. You notice that plural. Couldn't remember any specifics about that. He said he also remembered partying with him in Las Vegas a few times. And this is where you get into the Wolf of Wall Street funding. And we are talking about a lot of money here. I mean, listen to this. Quote, Lowe says that a friend here wanted to make a movie with Leonardo DiCaprio, and that friend, they would be a producer, and they would get the financing for whatever film comes up. DiCaprio tells Lowe about The Wolf of Wall Street, which DiCaprio had struggled to get financed. Now, DiCaprio says he's not really sure if these talks they would lead anywhere, but he thought Lowe seemed legit, meaning that Lowe actually had the money he said he had. Now, DiCaprio also says, I'm not really sure what went on for background checks. I don't really remember that. In fact, when we get a pitch by a financier, reps, they look into that person, not me. Now, at first, Lowe and DiCaprio, they have a social friend relationship, but after Lowe financed Red Granite Pictures, it became a business relationship as well. Now, Lowe continues to throw outlandish parties, which DiCaprio attended because that's part of the Hollywood business culture. And then Lowe, he comes up saying that they, meaning Lowe and their friend, were going to give DiCaprio whatever he wanted for the budget of the film. Lowe told DiCaprio that the movie would be funded for $100 million, but you had the other people involved trying to negotiate funding at $95 million. DiCaprio felt Lowe was letting them play at negotiation, but Lowe was the one who controlled the money, and he was going to support The Wolf of Wall Street for $100 million. You have these names, too. They end up coming up with an idea to add a thank you to Lowe at the end of Wolf of Wall Street there. So you not only have them paying all of this money, you have a thank you added to that. That's big time considering what kind of case we're talking about here. Now, DiCaprio's lucky he didn't end up in indictment, in my opinion. Why? Well, he met with one of the power players involved with 1MDB, the Malaysian Prime Minister. In fact, he admits to meeting them twice. He said Lowe, he arranged it the first time. They had handshakes and more, some small talk. The second time was at a benefit event, and they wanted him to go to Malaysia, but he said, nah, I never did that. He also says, I remember his foundation receiving money from Lowe, but he did not specifically remember what account company the money came from. So there was money that came in. He met with one of the conspirators in this, a major conspirator. Now, the subject of political corruption comes up in this too, along with Praz and more. This is one of the reasons I think Praz is calling Leonardo DiCaprio as a witness, because Leonardo DiCaprio said, one time I met with Praz, and Praz said, there's something negative or bad it could be going on with Lowe. So that warning, maybe that gives him an out. But they talk about political corruption here, and I want to make something very clear. Political corruption was on both sides of that fence. You had people being bought off left and right throughout 2 campaigns, 2 different presidents sitting in office, but you have $20 to $30 million going to the re-election fund for Barack Obama, with Lowe saying that we're giving it. We, not I'm giving it. And around that time, you have Obama meeting with the PM, the 1MDB orchestrator as well. You also have Lowe apparently setting up a meeting with other Hollywood big shots like Martin Scorsese, DiCaprio, and more so they could give Obama a Wolf of Wall Street copy at the White House. They say that they were met by Frank White Jr., who happened to be an old friend of Obama. Again, that surface level there was enough to get you talked to by the FBI with it, but it wasn't enough to land DiCaprio in hot water. But it came close, I imagine. Now, there's more discussions about partying and gifts. One of the gifts that came up, one of the more interesting ones in my opinion, was a Marlon Brando Oscar statue, which Lowe ended up gifting to DiCaprio. He figured it came from Frank DeLuca. There's other things that are mentioned in this as well. But yeah, DiCaprio is lucky, very lucky, that he is not on trial here with Praz. We're going to see how this turns out. Again, one of the biggest cases that is happening right now. Yeah, you barely ever hear anything about it. Why? Well, that political part, you could imagine how that would be embarrassing to all sides of an equation.